Hey everyone, and welcome to my new series on CSS, cascading style sheets. Excuse me. Um, and in this series of videos, we're going to talk about the different ways to style your pages uniformly and while saving a good amount of code. Using classes and div selectors correctly can save you a lot of code. It can make your code much neater and easier to read, and it can also enhance the style and look of your site. All right. And the whole design of cascading style sheets is basically to allow you to uh, change something in one location and have it affect a larger surface area. That's the real genius and beauty behind style sheets. Okay. And what I'm going to go over is pretty much basic best practices as far as coding goes with style sheets and with HTML. All right. And so we're going to start here with just a basic HTML page declaration. And the first part of the aspect of style sheets is linking to an external style sheet. This is the preferred method. This is what most people do, most developers do. And basically, what you're doing is you're declaring a relationship to it, the rel, what type it is, and then its relative path. And I'm using a standard folder layout for a website, CSS folder, images folder, and JavaScript folder. The only difference would be some people do embed an images folder inside their CSS so they don't have to use the up one level directory, which is a dot dot dash, or excuse me, dot dot slash. So you might sometimes see a CSS folder with images in it, such as background images and things like that. I prefer not to use that. I prefer to have one images folder in the root, and then your different images called from there. If you call something from within a style sheet, such as the body tag, and you use a URL, you just simply put a dot dot slash, which tells the browser to go up one level, images, and then background image, or whatever you're going to use. Now, one thing you'll notice, I'm on a Mac, and Macs generally will label JPEGs as JPEG. The format is the same. The name is just spelled with an E and without. It's no different. They are the exact same thing. All right. Just know that whatever system you're on, you may wind up with a JPEG file instead of JPG. All right. And so basically what you're going to see, all right, is going to be just a blank page to start with. All right. And you need to spell everything correctly as you would expect. And there's our page. All right. So now we can actually, if we wanted to do something different, we could just do a background color and black. Or any other color. All right, but we're not going to do that. We want our page to use that background image. All right. And then so now what we're going to do is, I'm getting ahead of myself here. What we're going to start with is to explain the box model. All right, and the box model pretty much says that you have several layers of working styles, and you have margins and padding which affect inward or outward. Okay, and I'll explain this as we go. But right now we have a page container as our outer box. Okay, that just gives us something to work with. Right now it's the same size as the body because it's not been declared anything else. All right, so what we'll do is we'll go in here and we'll select our page container and we'll give it a width of 400 pixels, height 400 pixels, background color of white. Now you can use several different color naming methods. You can just call it white. Most of your known colors can be used as words. You can use a hexadecimal value. You can use a shortcut value, which is only half, or the full value of white, which is all 6 Fs, or you can use RGB values. All right. I prefer to use hexadecimal on most of them, so we'll just use FFF. And then we'll use margin 0 auto. And what 0 auto does is actually gives it a 0 margin, but it auto centers the div ID that has that element. All right, so we wind up with a white box in the middle. Now that's going to be, well, for this example, we're going to consider that to be our parent element, which means that it doesn't need to move. Okay, so we're going to give this a position of relative, which means that it will not move, and anything within that element will be positioned relative to it. Okay, so what we'll do now is we'll do an inner box, and we'll give it position of absolute, which sometimes is necessary, sometimes is not, but I'll show you the difference. 400 pixels width, or I'm sorry, 350 pixels, height, 350 pixels, background color, maroon, and we'll do margin of 25 pixels, which will give us 25 on each side. And we missed something here. Oh, we didn't declare it. So inside the page container, which is your parent element, because remember, code is read from top to bottom, we're going to declare an ID of inner box. All right, and I always put comments at the end of my divs, because at the end of an 800 to 1,000 lines of code, it can get confusing as to what div is what. The closing div of each one is very important to be able to find. All right, so we're going to do end of pound inner box. Now you might ask what the difference between what the selector is, and that is one thing that we should go over in the style sheet. ID selector uses a pound. An HTML element does not require anything in front of it. All right, so this could be an H1. All right, or a P tag. Anything that's an HTML native element does not need anything in front of it. However, if you want to use a class item, module title say, that uses a period selector. Okay, so a period selector is a class, and that can be used many times over. An ID selector can only be used once on the page. All right. In this instance, it's okay to use an ID selector because we're targeting these individual things. All right. So if we go back to the page and refresh, there's our perfectly centered box. Now, say we wanted to do something even inside of that. We'll say the inner box. All right, and we go to style it, and we'll give it a width of 300 pixels, height 300 pixels, color of yellow, margin of 25 pixels again. Okay, so now we have a box inside of it. So this is pretty much the box model. Now, what we're going to talk about in the next video is called padding, and you'll see that when we start to add things inside here, whether it be text or an image, you'll see that the padding will actually move it away from on the inside of the wall, this imaginary wall here, move to the inside of the element rather than the outside. The margin will affect the outside of the element, padding affects the inside of the element. Okay, so thanks for watching. Don't forget to rate, subscribe, and leave your comments below. Thanks a lot.